Second word is bad. Or we're living in a broken world. I don't think you can get an argument about the brokenness of the world, no matter who you speak to. You can mention it on the plane, you can talk to a young person, and they will pretty well acknowledge that things seem to be upside down rather than the right way up. Where the issue begins to turn, of course, is on providing any kind of explanation as to why we are the way we are. And, of course, how we might be able to fix ourselves. Well, the Bible is equally clear about that, and it's helpful, isn't it? Because it tells us that the world that we know today is not the world as God made it in all of its pristine goodness, but is the world that we have spoiled. That when you read the early chapters of Genesis, you discover that Adam and Eve listened to a lie. They listened to a lie, and having embraced the lie, they lived with the chaos that followed. In fact, if you pay attention to it, you realize that we could hardly blame them, as it were, because we ourselves, by nature, know how to do these very things. What things? Well, they doubted God's goodness. They rejected God's wisdom. They rebelled against God's authority. And they were, in turn, banished from God's presence. Banished from his presence. This, you see, is the great chasm. This is the great divide. Although contemporary philosophical notions suggest that the great divide is not here, but it is between those who are the oppressors and those who are the victims. These various groups of individuals, collectively responsible or vulnerable, whatever it might be. And as you try and navigate your way through that kind of thinking, and you come back to the Bible, you realize how straightforward it is. It says that by nature we're alienated from God. That there is an invisible boundary between a holy God and the creation that he has made. That God is beyond the range of our intuitive radar. We can't access God on our own time and on our own terms. If the alienation is to be addressed, the initiative has to come from God's side. And that is, of course, what the Bible says, that God has taken the initiative. Now, I'm a child of the 60s, and so most of the music I quote now, people said I never heard of it, and young people think I'm just an old fogey. I get it. But for me, the best lyricist of the 20th century, in my estimate, is none other than Paul Simon. And if you trace his journey through his life to his early 80s now, you realize that he has impinged upon many of these great themes, and not least of all in the 60s and 70s, this whole matter of alienation. Why is it that I feel alienated from myself, that I feel alienated from those who should be my friends and my brothers and my sisters? Why am I like this? And the answer, of course, is that it is our alienation from God that is the great alienation. Kathy, I'm lost, I said. Though I knew she was sleeping, I'm empty and aching, and I don't know why. Just counting the cars on the New Jersey Turnpike. We've all come to look for America. Where is America? Who is America? Why am I the way I am? The answer is very clear. Not only have all of us been made in the image of God, but all of us are flawed. All of us have sinned, and we've come short of the glory of God. We couldn't keep our own standards up, let alone anybody else's. Certainly not God's. Years ago, in the Times, G.K. Chesterton answered a question which had been posed, that is in the London Times. I'm not quoting the New York Times, just relax in your seats. And, incidentally, G.K. Chesterton was a funny man. He was a funny man. He was a large man, and he often wore a cloak, which in the windy streets of London, he would wrap around himself as he went. And on one occasion, as he comes around a corner in London, he wraps his cloak around him, wraps it around his head, and he falls over in the street. He bumps into a man who is walking along carrying a grandfather clock under his arm. And as Chesterton looks up at this individual, he says to him, "Why couldn't you wear a wristwatch like everybody else?" So he's funny, but he's also honest. The question that was raised in the Times was this: what is wrong with the world today? You know his answer? Writing to the editor of the Times, he says, "What is wrong with the world today? Dear sir, I am." The issue is always our personal responsibility. And the real question then is, how can a good God look on his creation that has turned its back on him, look on us without displeasure, and how can we look on a holy God without fear? And that is the answer that is provided in the new. Good, fashioned in his image. Bad, decided to go our own way. New,